West Wyoming, land of geysers, mountains, and lakes, is also sitting atop a super volcano. And it just took what scientists describe as a deep breath, causing miles of ground to rise dramatically. So what does this mean? Well, joining us right now is Michealaddo. He is a physics professor at the City University of New York and the author of the upcoming book, Physics of the Future. Thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be on.
So the last time this happened was 640,000 years ago. We're due?
We are due. Forget Yogi Bear. Okay, forget Old Faithful. It's sitting on top of a sleeping giant. Now, if you're sleeping next to an 800-pound gorilla, you monitor every burp, every snore of this gigantic gorilla, because when it blows, it could destroy the United States as we know it.
This is a pretty scary prospect. I want to just show people what we're talking about here when we talk about this super volcano, and we have a little thing to show you, a map with some of the details. So that's where it is. It's beneath Yellowstone. It's been there, as we know. I guess this has erupted 3 times in 2.1 million years. But what they're worried about is the fact that they say that the ground has started to swell in levels that they have not seen before, 10 inches in some places in the past year. What does that tell us?
It tells us that there is activity in this supervolcano, which erupts roughly every 600 million years. And the last eruption was 640 million years ago.
Oh, 640 million or 1,000?
1,000 years ago, I'm sorry, right.
Because then we had some more time.
Then we have some more time, right. But that's what's making us very nervous, because the cycle time corresponds to the present-day era. So every single burp, murmur of this gigantic potential supervolcano, including the rise of the sea level, has to be watched very carefully.
All right, so when we talk about this, and we have pictures, pictures of Mount St. Helen erupting back in 1980. Let's just show this right now. You say that an explosion with this supervolcano under Yellowstone, and there we're seeing the Mount St. Helens, would be 1,000 times bigger than this. What type of damage are we talking about here?
We're talking about immediate damage out to 100 miles from the site. That is total devastation, basically wiping out everything in sight. However, the real damage goes out to 500 miles if you include volcanic ash, poisonous gases, death of wildlife and vegetation, and that's a ring about 1,000 miles across. That's the heartline of America.
It would pretty much wipe out Earth as we know it?
It would wipe out the United States as we know it. And again, we don't want to panic anybody. It could happen tomorrow, or it could happen 100,000 years from now. It's black magic trying to predict exactly when it's going to blow, but we do know one thing. One day, it will blow.
So, and you say that something on this scale is what wiped out the dinosaurs.
65 million years ago, another supervolcano coincided with this meteor that hit Mexico, and we think it was a double whammy that knocked out the dinosaurs. So it's something that we take very seriously, but again, the cycle time is measured on the scale of hundreds of thousands of years.
Would there be anything we could do to prepare or to get people out? I mean, how much of a warning might we get with this eruption?
All you can do is run. You don't get much warning. What happened is the ground starts to rise, more and more earthquakes take place, more ash and volcanic gases start to be unleashed. That's about the only warning we get, because we do not have a good way to predict volcanic eruptions.
Are we getting a better way to do it, or are we just at the mercy of Mother Nature?
We're still clueless. We're still monitoring it very carefully, looking for the warning signs. That's why this sudden rise in the Earth, even though it's not immediately dangerous, is being looked at very carefully, because we have no experience with supervolcanoes. We've seen Mount St. Helens. We've seen Krakatoa, but a supervolcano erupting in our lifetime, we have no understanding of the scope of that thing. We just see the evidence of previous eruptions.
It's amazing. So you say it could be tomorrow, it could be in 100,000 years, but it's under there.
It's there, and it will happen. At one point, it will destroy North America as we know it.
Man, that explains us, really explains us. The spokesperson says that statement comes after the government looked at several data sources other than this tape, although they will not tell us what those data sources were. With us now, the physicist, Michealaddo. He is the author of Physics of the Impossible and is about to explain to us exactly what happened. Thank you for coming.
Glad to be on.
Help me. You've gone point by point by point.
Frame by frame, I've gone through the video tape.
So you stopped this video and you looked at frame by frame by frame, and what did you learn?
At first, I thought, oh my God, an unauthorized launch of a ballistic missile. This is scandalous.
Or an accident.
Or an accident, right?
Yeah.
But then I said to myself, wait a minute. When you go frame by frame, something is wrong. First of all, the object is not accelerating. Rockets have booster rockets that take it to 18,000 miles per hour. This thing is cruising at a constant velocity. Second, is changing direction slightly. Ballistic missiles never change directions. Third, it's going in the wrong direction. We fire from Los Angeles, Vandenberg, we fire east to west to Kwajalein in the Pacific, sometimes north over a polar orbit. This thing was going northeast in the wrong direction. And also, even though it looks like it's going vertically up, maybe you're looking at it edge on. When you look at an airplane going edge on, it looks like it's going straight up when it's actually cruising very gently. Not only that, contrails expand rapidly at the base. The older it is, the larger they expand.
Like the contrail right there.
Right. So it looks as if that thing is moving away from you, right? Actually, it's probably moving toward you.
Huh.
It's an optical illusion caused by the fact that we look at the bottom, we think the bottom is closer than the top. But actually,
it's fatter.
Yeah, because it's fatter, because the contrails expand. Now, there are airplanes from Hawaii to Phoenix that go right over Los Angeles at around exactly the time which is in question. So it's probably a commercial airliner that is cruising very slowly, and the killer is, this is now the smoking gun. We have radar analysis of the entire area. We see no evidence of a fast-moving object. All we see are airplanes. That's all we see in the area. So why doesn't the Pentagon simply come out and say what we physicists believe, that it is an airplane? And the reason is it's always hard to disprove a negative.
Right.
It's always easier to prove a positive, but to disprove a negative is very difficult. You can't rule out this possibility or that probability with a certain % error, right? That's why the Pentagon is being very coy about this, I think.
Well, you know, my problem with all this from the very beginning has been we keep track of every single aircraft and every part of our sky at every second of every day. Every 4.3 seconds it updates.
Right.
So we know where every jet is every 4.3 seconds. So can't they look at this video and go, oh, this was United 1231 en route from... I mean, that would help. Why put us through all of this?
Well, it's hard to disprove a negative. In other words, the radar...
But if you were the FAA, you can say, all right, we know exactly the time this was taken because it went live on their air. They can say this was this flight. Why won't they?
I think they need a new PR director.
Okay.
I think that's what they really need, because they really need a dose of reality. You know, the Pentagon has to interface with the public.
Yeah.
The public is the taxpayer. They pay the bills. And the taxpayer has a right to know what is going over their skies. And also, jet pilots also weighed in on it. They say they saw nothing unusual. But how can you say that when there was this gigantic contrail in their own backyard?
Yep. Why wasn't everybody on the coast screaming?
The answer is jet pilots look down from above where it looks horizontal and ordinary. We look at it from the bottom up, and we see these gigantic plumes of gas shooting straight up. But somebody up there looking down sees a horizontal plume of exhaust. Therefore, that's why the pilots say, I saw nothing. There's nothing out of the ordinary there.
It's a jet, isn't it?
It's a jet. In other words, you look at all the dots, and you take the simplest line that goes across all the dots, and that's a jet. Sorry for all you conspiracy buffs.
Well, I'm sure they were having fun with it. We were enjoying the video, but I can tell you're very smart. You know exactly what you're talking about. But at the end of this program, I'm going to show them what it really is. It's aliens. But I'm going to show them how it works. Thank you for setting us straight. Very helpful. One charity finding a relatively...
My question is about gravity, particularly about the speed of gravity. We all know that the speed of light is the ultimate in regards to speed, but does this include also the speed of gravity? If the sun disappeared instantaneously, would gravity also disappear instantly or at the speed of light? I'd appreciate your answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, your answer actually is not resolvable at the present time, but I'll give you the consensus of almost every physicist who studied the question. If the sun were to disappear right now, we know that it would take 8 minutes for the light from the disappearing sun to reach the Earth. We wouldn't know it for 8 minutes. Now, Einstein says nothing can go faster than light. Even gravity cannot go faster than light, meaning that we wouldn't feel the gravitational shock wave for 8 minutes. The Earth would not be thrown out of its orbit and flung into deep space for 8 minutes. And then the question is, how do I know that? No one has ever done this experiment. Gravity is very weak unless you go to the galactic or the stellar scale. And so for the most part, you never feel the effects of gravity that can be measured easily in the laboratory. So it's quite difficult to do experiments on gravity, and nobody has measured the speed of gravity, because gravity would change so quickly. However, every scientist believes in relativity theory because it works every time, and so we think, but we cannot prove, that it would take 8 minutes for the disturbance of the vanishing sun to reach the planet Earth. Now, one day, we may be able to do this experiment with quasars in outer space, with exploding stars, exploding black holes and things like this. But at the present time, our technology is not sophisticated enough to answer the question, how fast does gravity travel? I'd be willing to put money on the table and say that if there's a disturbance in the universe someplace, we wouldn't know until the gravity wave reaches us.
For the ages, are we alone in the universe? Believe it or not, we've actually been asked a lot to find out the answer.
And a man who shared his experience with us 3 years ago is now sharing it with the nation. Will Whitson is live in Myrtle Beach to share our own experiences with the supernatural. Will.
Well, we get a lot of calls to investigate stories, guys, and sometimes those stories, well, they happen up there. It's almost a cultural phenomenon for odd happenings to be in South Carolina and North Carolina, and when people experience it, they call us to share.
We're taking phone calls, we're answering emails, looking at Facebook. Any type of concern the community has, we like to answer them as well.
Sometimes those concerns deal with something literally out of this world.
All the tourists are in town, they got their cameras, they're seeing these lights out over the ocean, and it just sort of, can grow to be something pretty big.
I've seen some of the orange lights that people call in and claim that they have video up.
No, not that kind. Something more like this. Local business owner and pilot Gary Travis shot video of it 3 years ago. Our interview with him went viral online, and now he's being featured on a National Science Channel program.
I'm not going to be a guy that tells you I think they're alien spacecraft, and I don't have any kind of proof of that. It'd be fun to think something like that might happen.
About 5 to 10 feet above the two-story building or home was two bright lights that showed up.
Check this out. The National UFO Reporting Center keeps a database of reports in every state. There are almost 1,200 reports in South Carolina, many from right here in the Grand Strand.
All of a sudden, the emails we get, the phone calls, the Facebook messages, they all really increase.
Even members of our own WMBF News family have had an encounter.
And we all kind of got up, followed her out to the street, and saw this bright orange light.
UFOs aren't the only weird happenings in the Grand Strand. Some phenomenon have been here for generations.
The big one we hear about all the time is the Seneca booms.
My theory was maybe somebody's propane tank exploded.
If you search hard enough, you may find a logical explanation.
Probably the most common thing that we see around here is what's called chaff, which is basically little bits of metal particles that military aircraft drop.
But after an encounter, you may want to believe there's something bigger out there.
The universe is remarkable, and it's infinite. Maybe we'll see a little sighting here over Myrtle Beach, over the Atlantic, and we'll be able to be live local late breaking on the scene then, too.
When I asked Travis about his experience on the Science Channel TV show, he said he was happy to share that experience. And he says he thinks there are more people out there that have had these encounters with supernatural phenomenon, and he thinks they should speak up. Live in Myrtle Beach, Will Whitson, WMBF News.
Here's a story. Some Amherst residents say they saw a real UFO over Hampshire County. That's right. As CBS 3 Springfield's April Baker tells us, some Amherst residents, they're open to the possibility of extraterrestrial life coming to Western Mass.
Well, Chris, there certainly is a buzz today around Amherst about a possible UFO sighting. I went around town to speak with people about what they thought about this unexplained sight. Laughter seemed to be everyone's initial reaction when I asked them about a possible UFO sighting in Amherst. But laughter aside, it was a hot topic in town today.
Yeah, actually, I heard about it when I got into work this morning. I didn't hear a lot about the story, but people were talking about it.
On Tuesday between 5 and 7 p.m., several witnesses say they saw a diamond-shaped, dimly lit object in the sky. The object was reported to be moving slow and hovering about 75 to 100 feet above the ground. A plane has been one possible idea of what the mystery object could be, but today I was told otherwise.
Westover saw nothing on the radar, so who knows what it could have been.
But do people in Amherst really believe it could be a UFO? Some people say it's possible.
It could have been a UFO, who knows? No one really knows if it was or wasn't.
I guess you can see a UFO just about anywhere, usually in less populated places than, say, Amherst, but, I guess you can see them anywhere.
But whether you believe in UFOs or not, people say it's important to be open to the possibilities.
I'll give them credit. If they want to talk about it, I think it's fine. I wouldn't want to deny somebody their experience.
Now here's another fun fact. The National UFO Reporting Center says December 10th has been the most common day for reported UFO sightings over the past 50 years. Reporting in Amherst, April Baker, CBS 3 Springfield.
Hey, who knows?
Well, a mother and daughter in Nanton are also keeping their eyes on the sky. They say something was flying over their house, and they have no idea what it was. A plane, a UFO, perhaps some paranormal activity. Our Nadia Stewart gets to the bottom of it.
Usually the lights shining bright above Sam Martini's Nanton home are the sun, moon, and stars. But on Sunday, she saw something a little different.
It rose so slowly, and then when it came at us, it came so quickly.
It was around 11 o'clock at night. Sam and her daughter Bailey were at home watching TV. When outside, they noticed a pair of bright lights. They ran out to get a better look.
Then the light just started coming straight at us and went straight over our house and headed to the northwest behind us.
These blurry pictures, the only evidence of what they saw. Whatever it was, it frightened the cattle. It was unlike anything Sam had seen before.
The way those white lights were hanging in the sky as long as they were, and they didn't change color and they didn't change size for so long, that just makes me wonder.
Sightings like these are more common than you may think. According to the Canadian UFO Survey, there were 1,180 sightings last year, more than 100 in Alberta alone. And experts say there have been reported sightings of paranormal activity in Nanton before. Between the pictures and witnesses, experts say on the surface it's an unusual case, and probably an explainable one too. They aren't quite convinced that this is paranormal activity.
The shaking of the object or the movement of the object, that looks like a camera with a time exposure on it that may have been bumped. It looked very sporadic.
So a UFO? Probably not, say the experts, but he and others are fans of anything that gets Albertans gazing up into the night sky. Nadia Stewart, CBC News, Calgary.
New at 11, from Cape Coral to California, people across the country are reporting mysterious lights in the night sky. All right, take a look. Some people say they look like fireballs. A Cape Coral family saw our newscast at noon about these lights in California on New Year's Eve and almost jumped off their couch. They say they saw the exact same thing at their house last night. NBC2's Alex DeArmas picks up our story.
It was a normal Sunday night for this Cape Coral family until in the night sky,
big red-orange light. Right behind that was another one. And then right behind that was another one.
Roxanne Hoffman says she saw something similar to this. This is video from California on New Year's Eve.
Like a reddish orange, almost like a fireball, but you just didn't see any flames.
She says the lights came from the north. Neither she nor her mother-in-law heard a thing.
Just like they're following each other, just like it would be two people following each other, right? And it was weird.
They say the lights then got behind a large cloud and disappeared.
It was weird. It was really, really weird.
NBC2 discovered the National UFO Reporting Center took 200 calls in 2 days, all reporting orange, reddish lights in the sky.
Clearly, the reports that have come in here during the last 40 hours have virtually nothing to do with fireworks.
The director of the center, Peter Davenport, says in the past 19 months, he's gotten over 5,000 similar calls.
And they seem to defy any similarity to terrestrial aircraft. We just don't know what they are.
Davenport says a small percentage of these cases can be Chinese lanterns or hot air balloons. But he isn't convinced they all are.
At least we feel we're not seeing things, you know, and it's been seen somewhere else.
While the mystery still remains, Hoffman says she's keeping an eye out. In Cape Coral, Alex DeArmas, NBC2.
The Sri Lanka Air Force states that it is keeping a 24-hour vigil regarding the unidentified lights that were witnessed in the skies over several parts of the island in the recent past. SLAF media spokesperson, Wing Commander Shiraz Jalaluddin said that no unidentified airborne craft had been picked up on radar as yet.
Meanwhile, unidentified lights were witnessed in the skies over several parts of the island yesterday as well. This is the unidentified light that was witnessed in the skies above Hambegamwa in Tanamalwila at around 8:30 p.m. last night. Meanwhile, this unidentified light was captured on a mobile phone camera in the eastern skies above Ambalantota. An unidentified light was also recorded on a mobile phone camera in the skies above Ihalayagoda in Gampaha. News First reported on several similar incidents in the recent past. What are these unidentified lights? If they are not UFOs, then who is responsible for informing the public as to what they are? News First will remain vigilant.
Es sich vermutlich die verlorene gegangene Ladung von dem Zwischenfall, der sich auf der Bundesautobahn 81 letzte Woche ereignete. Wobei das Merkwürdigste daran lässt sich jedoch erkennen, wenn wir das von der Tunnelkamera aufgenommen Filmmaterial verlangsamen. Bemerken Sie das mysteriöse Licht, welches das Fahrzeug scheinbar verfolgt? Könnte es sich hierbei um das gleiche Licht handeln, durch den der Fracht-LKW letzte Woche abgehoben wurde? Die Art und Weise, wie sich die beiden zwischen...
There was something dazzling in the sky last night, and we're not talking about New Year's Eve fireworks.
Well, people from all over Northern California contacted us to report a bizarre flying object or objects. Most of the sightings happened just after midnight.
News 10's George Warren spent the day trying to identify the unidentified flying objects.
Well, we saw it right through the trees. It was bright enough to shine directly through the trees without any problem seeing it.
Stephen Brown watched it over Sacramento. Hans Maut spotted it over Auburn.
Kind of approached from over that direction and came across kind of slow.
Did they see the same thing that Kay Pinlack saw in Stockton?
Pretty much right above this palm tree here.
Multiple objects, he says, captured on his iPhone.
Guys, I seen like 6 bright orange color lights, and they're like almost in a diamond or triangle shape. It was weird, and then so they started just separating.
You see that other one up there on the right, though? And not just Northern California. Somebody posted this video from the Hollywood Hills on YouTube. Multiple glowing objects out there among the New Year's Eve fireworks.
And now it's 3 more.
There's 2 of them.
No.
There's 3 all together, right?
4. No, it's 4 now.
In Auburn, Hans and his wife Terry saw it a few hours earlier than the other sightings.
But there was no sound. That's the funny thing.
Or the lights, the usual lights.
No sound, no blinking lights, just this big illuminated form.
And whatever it was moved up and to the left. It hovered there for probably about 60 seconds, and then it took off at a high rate of speed out of sight directly away from us and just disappeared.
Of course, we're always looking for rational explanations for UFO sightings. This 2008 sighting over the Sacramento Valley turned out to be an airplane with an electronic sign under the wings. A year later, a mysterious flashing light near Placerville turned out to be arcing power lines.
There's a light.
We're still waiting to find out if there's a rational explanation for what people saw last night all across California.
Now, an FAA spokesman tells me that there was no unusual aircraft activity reported to the FAA last night. If this was some sort of hoax, it would have to be a pretty elaborate one because it was seen by so many people all over California.
Well, yeah, up and down the state, which is interesting, and within hours of each other.
Yeah, so the earliest sighting we heard about was about 8 p.m. up in Auburn. Terry and Hans, they said it was just a single object they saw, very moving unnaturally, too fast for a balloon, too slow for an airplane. In Sacramento as well, Stephen said that it was a single object hovering and then streaking away. And then, of course, down in Stockton, the multiple objects, as in Hollywood.
That's the interesting part, that it was hovering and then it started cruising.
Yeah.
That suggests, yeah, it's not a balloon. Or
there's some intelligent control of this thing.
Nothing showed up on radar that the FAA is willing
Not
to
that they're telling us. We also
sure
talked.
yeah.
We checked with Travis Air Force Base in Beale, and they said, of course, nothing unusual happening.
All right. Well, you know, it'll be interesting if someone can step forward and offer an explanation.
Please, I'm done.
Oh! What is it?